And now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
If you asked me to name the best Canadian rock or hard rock band of the last 5 years, it's got to be Broken Love. They're from Toronto. Their singer, Justin Benlolo, has the kind of story that you love to hear. Dropped out of high school at 16. His parents must have been pretty fired up about that. Moved to New York City in 2014, then to LA to write some songs, started building the band. Broken Love has the things you love about classic rock bands like Zeppelin, Soundgarden. You'll hear some Royal Blood, Highly Suspect, even bits of Michael Jackson, or certainly the vocals. It's great to connect again with Justin. The first time he was a guest was during COVID, during the pandemic. This time he jumped on to talk about their new album. It's called The Program. They put that out in March of this year. And cool to hear Justin talking about what it's like touring with Wolfgang Van Halen, the guys in Mammoth WVH. He shared a story about seeing AC/DC in concert. We touched on the new Zeppelin documentary, binging Shorzy and the House of the Dragon. We even got a little bit into his childhood and talked about hockey stories, close call with guns, UFC fandom, comic books came up. And Justin opened up about the grind of being in a modern band and how it's not just about the music anymore. Songwriter, the player, content creator, the video editor. I think that's something a lot of us can understand and relate to. It's the DIY, right? So listen to this.
Well, that's a tough question to answer. Let's see. Like maybe I think what's tough in general is just the way the landscape has changed, especially with rock music and just how everything has become more digitized with streaming and all that kind of stuff. And like, you know, my generation is like we're kind of on the edge of like where we still didn't have like, you know, TikTok and Instagram and Spotify only became a thing when I was like 16 or 17. You know, like we were still, you know, downloading music illegally and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm getting at is like I think the content machine really changed a lot when I was growing up, whereas like I have younger siblings and for them, it's just like they have full TikTok, brain rot, all that kind of stuff. They grew up with that stuff. And it's just the idea of having to become like content creators now is so foreign, I think, to a lot of at least my generation of musicians, because we're like, wait, hold on. Like, you know, they used to just tell us to make maybe a YouTube cover every once in a while. Maybe that would be the thing. Now it's like you have to make the music and you have to post all your pictures and you have to make these like dumb reels and TikToks that are like clickbaity and
Oh, and by the way, you need to do that daily as well.
Yeah, and you have to do it consistently because there's an algorithm now that like this, that, and the other. And it's like, man, it's fucking exhausting because like I just want to make music. And
I feel that.
Sometimes it feels impossible to get your music out there without acknowledging that these things are important. And there's only so much like what's the word I'm trying to say here? Like I have a sense of pride. There's only so much pride I can have in like, oh, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to be the TikTok band or whatever. You know, it only goes so far before you're like, shit, well, maybe this is something you have to utilize these days if you actually want to make it anywhere. And
you know, and the thing about that too, Justin, is like you've only got a certain amount of creativity too, right? Like, so if you're like taking away from the product, like you say, I just want to fucking make music. So you're taking away like, hey boys, let's quickly make a TikTok video, or like, hey, can you quickly say this? And I'm going to piece this. Like now suddenly you're losing sight of what Broken Love's about.
100%. So you kind of nailed it. It's like, I feel like maybe what has changed now, and obviously I can't say because I wasn't around in the music business, you know, in the golden era, some would maybe say, but like you're all encompassing now. You're not only the songwriter, you're also the photographer, you're the video guy, you're the, you know, the art director, you're the social media manager, you're everything, you know, you're literally not, I mean, most of us can kind of produce or engineer nowadays, because if you don't know how to build a demo like on your own anymore, I mean, music is made with computers now. So it's like, if you don't know how to use, you know, Pro Tools or Logic or whatever kind of DAW at home, or get like a half decent setup, like you have to look up all this stuff now if you kind of want to make it. There's less resources that are available, and there's less obviously funding available for rock musicians, especially.
But you guys do all that, like the creative BC, no, maybe not BC because you're obviously not from BC, but you'll do factor grants and shit. Like you'll apply for them at the very least, right?
For them for sure. I mean, it's been tough. I mean, just because we have this weird situation where like I'm Canadian, but I'm signed to an American label, and it just gets really complicated. I'm not going to bore anybody with that. I've just learned to become self-sufficient, which obviously, listen, a lot of artists have to be, but I think that's maybe one of the biggest hurdles you have to get over these days is you have to sort of be comfortable with doing everything. There used to be, more teams available to you. You used to have a serious marketing team or a big PR, external PR. Or,
back when record labels chucked a shit ton of money at bands and stuff, right? Like
it doesn't really happen anymore. And I was lucky. At one point in my career before all the Broken Love stuff, I was signed to another label, and they did actually give us, a pretty significant chunk of change just for development, which was kind of crazy to think of now, or it's kind of crazy to think of now because that was probably like, again, right at the turn of like the streaming and all that stuff. Like it wasn't really as popular as it was now. There wasn't Reels. There wasn't, TikTok. It didn't exist then. So I'm not going to say that's the main reason why these things have stopped, but I'm just trying to think of in terms of like revenue, I think they were still getting it from a lot of places, and this label obviously had money. They gave me a chance to develop. They gave me, a budget to go and try to make some demos and try to figure out my sound and get in sessions and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of unheard of now. It's not surprising when you hear like, oh, okay, so-and-so band that just got signed by this label actually recorded the first record all by themselves. They produced it themselves. They mixed it themselves. And then they turned it in. And then, the label bought it from them, because they didn't put in any money to let them make the record or whatever. You have to kind of show up.
Well, you have to be self-sufficient, like ready to go and like, okay, now we'll take you on.
Got to be like fully thawed like by the time you get to these places now. I feel like a lot of people aren't people aren't taking risk. That's basically what it comes down to. And I understand, listen, this is still a business at the end of the day. It's still called the music business. So yeah, I'm not the one that's calling the shots. I'm sure if I had to invest in bands, I'd probably get nervous too, but I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Maybe that's to answer your question on this long-winded rant. There's just all those factors, just being self-sufficient, I think is probably the toughest thing of it all. And
Listen to This on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC-approved repair shop. Visit them on Facebook and Twitter at Tedco RV Supplies.
Goodbye, Kyle.
Did the sound of those words call to you like Pavlov's dog? Then you might enjoy our podcast, Turtle Time.
Every week, you can join me, Riley Hamilton, and my co-host, Amy Scarlatta, as we cover the most pressing Bravo news and dig into the new episodes to answer important questions like, who the hell is Adrian Malouf in this world?
Listen to Turtle Time on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes every Wednesday and Friday.
When they were young, the 5 members of an elite commando group nicknamed the Stone Wolves raged against the oppressive rule of the Craterakian Empire, which occupies and dominates most of the galaxy's inhabited planets. The Wolves fought for freedom, but they failed, leaving countless corpses in their wake. Defeated and disillusioned, they hung up their guns and went their separate ways, all hoping to find some small bit of peace amidst a universe thick with violence and oppression. 4 decades after their heyday, they each try to stay alive and eke out a living. But a friend from the past won't let them move on, and neither will their bitterest enemy. The Stone Wolves is season 11 of the Galactic Football League science fiction series by author Scott Sigler. Enjoy it as a standalone story or listen to the entire GFL series beginning with season 1, The Rookie. Search for Scott Sigler, Sigler, wherever you get your podcasts.
The Regency era. You might know it as the time when Bridgerton takes place, or the time when Jane Austen wrote her books. But the Regency era was also an explosive time of social change, sex scandals, and maybe the worst king in British history. And on the Vulgar History podcast, we're going to be looking at the balls, the gowns, and all the scandal of the Regency era. Vulgar History is a women's history podcast, and our Regency era series will be focusing on the most rebellious women of this time. That includes Jane Austen herself, who is maybe more radical than you might have thought. We'll also be talking about queer icons like Anne Lister, scientists like Mary Anning and Ada Lovelace, as well as other scandalous actresses, royal mistresses, rebellious princesses, and other lesser-known figures who made history happen in England in the Regency era. Listen to Vulgar History wherever you get podcasts.